very heterogeneous, means that a lot of variables, they cannot compute or conclude it as a meta-analysis, or they're too little studied, they can't proceed with the meta-analysis. Okay? A single systematic review may contain multiple meta-analyses. Okay? Sometimes, for different outcomes, for example, you have to monitor hospitalization, blood pressure, LDL, so you need to do meta-analysis for specific outcomes rather than combine all outcomes as one meta-analysis. Okay? So this small meta-analysis under a single systematic review, we call it subgroup analysis. Okay, why bother with systematic review? Why we need to do systematic review? So systematic review help to reduce large volumes of information to bite-sized pieces. So you have like 100 or 200 articles that reported the findings, and the findings are reported variables. Some said significant, some said non-significant. So you want to know what influenced the finding? Does the methods, does the population, does why the result was such? So you do a systematic review to understand these large volumes of information. So then, second thing why you do systematic review is to allow decision makers to integrate critical pieces of biomedical information. So sometimes it's hard to make decision making if they are very in reported outcomes. So to do a big decision, you need to sort of like summarize things out. How many studies have said there are significant improvement? How many studies said there's no significant improvement, for example? Okay, and an effective scientific technique which is often less costly than embarking new research. So everybody have done the research. The UK done it, Australia done it, every single country have done it. So we don't want to, spend money to repeat the similar things, which is we can use systematic review, which is less costly to summarize things up. And then we do systematic review to generalize the scientific finding. So because we combine the study from different countries, different settings, so it could be, we can generalize it to all populations. Okay? To assess the consistency of relationship, to explain data inconsistent. So this is why we are explaining why data is inconsistent, and whether some research designs influence the inconsistency, for example. And then when we combine all study, we increase the power because the population's number are increased. At one study, we probably done it on 200 patients, and then we combine all the study, we probably include at 25,000 patients. So that's increased the power of study. And increased precision in estimate of the effect as well, since we combine, we have more bigger sample size. Okay. So this is the step involved in systematic review. So basically we have 5 steps, which is first formulating the review questions, search and selecting the studies, and then you study the quality of the studies, extract the data, and do data synthesis. Okay, let's start with how we formulate the review questions. Okay, so research question related to systematic review can be done using PICO concept, which is PICO stands for P, problem or population, I is intervention, C is the comparison, O is outcome. But it's not all research questions can be done using PICO format. I've tried with, I think, last week, an undergraduate students who do research in chemistry. We try to come up with PICO, but we can only come up with PO, which is population and outcomes that we like to observe. Some of the chemistry, they don't have intervention arms, or they don't have comparisons arm. So
the intervention for 2 parameter doesn't count as intervention for the, say, chemistry.
Intervention,
Like the intervention.
Okay, for example, macam last week too, she has a compound, berry, I think. That is the population. We call it things that we like to search, investigate. Berry, and then the intervention, we don't know. She just want to do to check the pharmacological effects on diabetes. So that's her systematic review. So we don't have the intervention, we don't have the comparison. Specifically, we don't have. Maybe in the study they compare with some things. That's fine. But during the search, you can't say that, okay, I'll show you the examples of PICO in pharmacy practice or clinical research. Okay, so examples of the research question, if you can see here, is the intervention is more effective than something in addressing something, Y outcome, in Z population context. So let's see. This is the how you create your how you develop your research problem or problem topics. Okay, you have intervention, which is zinc, for example. You have outcome, treating goal. This is the things that chemistry we using. Okay, for example, you have compound and you like to see the outcome in terms of like diabetes effect, for example. But in clinicals or practice, they have more specific, like in children, the patient or population in children with common cold, intervention, does oral zinc effective in reducing duration of symptoms? So duration of symptoms is the outcome, zinc is the intervention, and then comparison is the placebo. Okay.
Is it necessary to have all the 4 components?
This is examples of good topic formulation, but sometimes if we become too specific, you will narrow down research. You will probably end up like 2 papers. So you don't need to do systematic review. So usually systematic review, you have the experts or the researcher needs to know whether you have to have basic knowledge that whether the area are big. A lot of research being done, and you was confused whether which research are valid, which research different setting have different outcomes. Or you don't know what's the outcome. Like chemistry, the compound have a lot of research have been reporting about the outcomes of the compounds or the effects of the compounds. So you want to compile everything in. So that's why you go using the general format, which is this one is intervention and outcome, not the P and outcome. So you can use 2, or you can use very, if in clinical there's a lot of papers, then you have to be specific enough. Or else you end up like 10,000 articles. If you say, for example, metformin used in diabetes. So you end up probably 20,000 articles. So you don't want to do systematic review on 20,000 articles. Okay. I'll just do systematic review meta-analysis on 21 articles, and it took me 2.5 years to complete. Okay, so this is examples of problems or topics. So what is the best strategy to prevent smoking in young people? So this is a bit general, if you can see. So you see best strategy, it doesn't state any strategy. So quite general. If you put it is in more focus, which is mass media, for school-based, community-based intervention, for mass media intervention effective in preventing smoking in young people. So this is, you want to check whether mass media is effective. So you want to quantify the system through systematic review and meta-analysis. This one is general. Does aspirin improve survival after acute myocardial infarctions? And this is more focused. In patients with acute MI, does daily low-dose oral aspirin lead to higher survival rates as compared to placebo? So I believe that systematic review on aspirin improve survivals a lot have been done. But this one, does daily low-dose, very focused, very specific, probably hasn't been done yet. That's why the author did systematic review on this particular topic. Right, so done with the formulating the research questions. So next is search and selecting the studies. This is a very crucial part of doing systematic review. If you don't do proper search, don't do proper selecting, you can produce bias in your systematic review study. Okay, so search. Search means we want to locate the articles. How do we find our articles? So articles can be located through this method, which is first the electronic database. So you have Net9, Embase, IPA, you have Science Direct, Scopus. So you can use keywords, mesh, and entry. So how do you find the keywords? Medical subject heading or entry for particular database is usually you start with the article, the primary articles that you have. Means the primary article, the articles that you think is close, is very relevant to your research topic. You must know, before you do the study, you must have read some papers related to the topic, right? So from the paper, it will use keywords. It will mention the keywords. Okay, keyword for example, like smoking just now, probably the keyword is smoking, teenagers, for example, adolescents. Okay, so this is zinc, for example. That's the keywords used to locate. Keywords are used to actually classify articles according to groups. So this is a smoking study. So all smoking study, we use smoking as the keywords or keyword or mesh medical subject heading. Okay, so how do you find the keywords? Means that when you type in, I'll show you if you have internet later on and how to do the search. You can put an easy step to do this. You can put the synonyms of the keywords, like medication adherence. So you put medication compliant, medication concordant, to include all the articles that reported medication adherence, for example. Okay. And then hand search. The hand search is done by manual page-by-page examination of the entire content of journal issue. Means that you know that these papers, like diabetes, you are looking at diabetes study, so you know that this diabetes type of research are usually published in diabetology, for example, this journal. So you hand search the journal one by one. Look at the journal's content. So check whether any paper that will be relevant to your research questions. And then checking reference list. This is by snowball sampling, for example. You find one article that is can much relate to your research questions. Look at the references, and then snowball. Look at the reference that most relevant to you, and then find the reference. And when you find the reference, look at its reference, and then finds its relevance. Okay. So this is the checking references. So systematic review may also include unpublished studies. It doesn't mean that you have to include everything must be published. For examples like policy, systematic review on policy. One of my Dr. Muhammad and my students doing on policy, systematic review on policy papers and some policies. So policies has not been published. So policy, you need to find it in unpublished study, like government reports, reports on some government websites. So you have to know, your supervisors must know where these articles are available. Okay? Personal communication, you can get the information from a reviewer or author of the studies, or you can, which means that at some stage of systematic review, sometimes you need to get in touch with the authors of the studies because you want to get the full article. Sometimes even in full articles, some data are not available. So you need at some stage you need to contact the authors to get the information that you want. Or some are with manufacturer. Okay. So personal communication, when you contact the manufacturer to get some document related to some things, for example. Okay, so once you have located studies, so locating studies is very crucial. So you have to know how to use Boolean operator and or not to increase you need to be sensitive. During your search, you need to be sensitive enough. Increase the sensitivity means that you have to include as much as articles as possible in your search. You don't exclude. So if you find 5,000 articles, don't get panic. So 5,000 articles probably will end up like 30 articles at the end. So one of my students currently doing PhD doing systematic review as well. He was so panicked because he got like 7,000 hits for his search, and he was panicking. I can't do systematic review for 7,000. But at the end of the day, he got 21 articles included in the systematic review. You can. I encourage you to use. Not if too many. Okay, when you do search, you need to be balanced. You don't want to find 25,000 articles. You want to find enough numbers of articles that you can do a review on it. So enough number means it's a logic number. If it's 7,000, I think it's doable. 2,000 is doable. 5,000 is doable. But if 10,000 is not doable, then you have to increase the specificity. Means get it more specific rather than sensitive.
So this is 7,000, whittled down to 21. That whittled down number, so how many is acceptable?
21 tu the final included in the systematic review. How do you determine?
Cukup tak cukup? 21 ke 20?
If you have 5,000 articles, I think it will be enough. You can guess that some, the final article we don't know how many will get into the final. There's no, we can't tell. You get sometimes 5,000 you get to 2 articles at the end. Okay, possible. So sometimes 5,000 you can get to 20, 30, but it depends on your luck. But usually, if you are familiar with the research topics, you sort of know some, you can guess at least there are 10 papers can be included in the final analysis. You have a gut feelings of there are more than 2 papers published related to the topic. Okay. Systematic review, there's no minimum numbers, but you don't want to do systematic review to publish only 1 papers. Because the process was too tedious. You have to search, to locate, to include, to exclude, and then at the end of the day you get the final one. Means that you are, I think, like Prof. Muhammad, he's in clinical, for example, neuro studies. He's already know if it's too specific, this drug used in this disease, very rare disease, only 1 in 100,000 population, for example. So you can't do systematic review on that because these diseases are very rare. Probably just 1 or 2 papers or 2 studies has been done on that rare disease, for example.
Yang final paper tu tak termasuk review paper orang lain kan?
No. Usually systematic review does not include review papers. Okay, tapi you can use the review papers to you can say that in your inclusion criteria, all articles reported in a review by Hanif et al. Will be included in our systematic review. So you can use Hanif have reported 21 articles. So on top of Hanif 21 articles, we're going to search other articles, like probably more other articles, and then add on to the findings by Hanif. So sometimes systematic review has been done before, but it was done up to 2005. So you want to extend what's the current finding. So you do the search from inception, from the date of database has been started, okay, to cover the up to 2005 articles, and then extend it to now, current. So you probably have Hanif articles up to 2005, and then you add on the articles that has been published from 2005 to 2017, for example. Okay. Then, if we have time, I'm going to show you how to do the search in the database. Okay. Selecting studies, and then after you get the studies, all studies need to be imported to a reference manager. You cannot handle 20,000 or 5,000 articles in Word documents. So you have to transfer it into reference manager. What sort of reference manager? Usually you use Mendeley, EndNotes to help you to manage the articles. And when you find in an Orbit or database, you need to export everything in. You probably find thousands of articles. So every article that you find at the end of the search needs to be transferred to your EndNotes, and then from there, then you do the selecting of the studies. How do you do it? You screen the articles according to the relevant inclusion/exclusion criteria. So the inclusion/exclusion criteria is like your PICO, basically more or less the same like PICO. So you have the inclusion means that if you are observing some chemical compounds, so the inclusion, the study must report outcomes on the compound, for example. That is your inclusion. So exclusion, for example, you don't want to include studies that done on animals. So you can put that as exclusion criteria. So study that reported the compound being used in animal study will be excluded from your systematic review, for example. So these inclusion exclusion criteria must be set prior before you do the screening. But sometimes after you do your screening, like 5-10 articles, you find out new inclusion exclusion criteria. You can add on to the inclusion exclusion criteria, but you have to redo the paper that have you screened. You have to redo the screening again until an explicit inclusion exclusion criteria has been set. So the eligibility criteria stand, like I said just now, is according to the PICO and plus the study designs. So sometimes researchers would like to only include study design, higher ranking of study design, such as they want to do systematic review only on randomized control trial (RCTs), because RCT are gold standards, so they is higher control over bias. So we want to include only RCT. So we include in the inclusion criteria only study design reporting as conduct as RCT. But in you have, okay, some of the articles, they don't clearly stated that they are RCTs or they are, pre-post intervention. They don't clearly stated your study designs. That's why when you do systematic review, you need to be familiar with determining the study design. First, you have to discuss, you have to add it to increase reliability, you have to have somebody else to check that they also agree that this is the study design, or you have to contact the author.
One more thing is there's a checklist. For every single article, there's a checklist. You need to checklist. If they fulfill certain items, that is RCT. If not fulfill, it's not RCT. We have that checklist available. Dia memang available. I tak ingat lah. Ada certain journals memang ada checklist tu. Kalau you hantar, you nak kategorikan you punya artikel tu apa pun, so you check dulu. Kalau you checklist all that fulfill, you are RCT. If not, you are not RCT. There is a checklist.
Sometimes when people say we are doing randomized, stratified sampling, random sampling. So we have, when you read, you thought that they are doing RCT, but when you read further, they said that they do stratified sampling. So stratified sampling is not a real RCT. It's a quasi-experimental. So the study design need to be, when you do systematic review, automatically you have to learn on what type of study designs. Okay. And then these need to be confirmed with a second person who can confirm agree whether this is an RCT or not. Okay, but not all study can do RCT. Even RCT, they have biases as well. So that's why in next part of systematic review, you have to assess for bias. Even RCT, sometimes they don't mention like intention to treat analysis. They don't mention ITT, loss to follow up. So this is considered as a low quality of RCT as well. Even the RCT, they have different quality as well. So you have to check the potential bias in RCT. Okay. So there are two phases of study selection, which is screening through abstract or screening through the full articles. So when you get all the list of references, you need to screening the inclusion exclusion criteria. You want to exclude articles that are not relevant. So my advice is you can do it through first to reduce the amount of work. You can't read like 5,000 full articles, or else you will do your PhD or your study like in 10 years time. So you need to screen it through probably title. If your titles, if you don't want animal study, for example, if the title mention rats, if the title include animals, so the title will be quickly excluded from the study. So the excluded articles must be recorded. Why you exclude the articles? So you don't straight away delete it from your list. You must keep it like the list why you exclude certain articles. So for example, paper 1, you exclude it because it's done in animal study. So you have to keep records. How many were excluded because of they done in animals, for example. Okay? And then you go, after you have screened the titles, you screen the abstracts. Read the abstracts. After you have screened the abstract, you exclude probably half of the articles, then you do the full, reading the full articles. I mean, reading the full articles will be time consuming, but you have to only find one reason to exclude articles. You don't need to read through like, okay, I'm going to find at least 3 reasons why I should exclude this article. No. So if you find one solid reason why you should exclude the article, straight away exclude it and record it why you should exclude the article. Okay. So decision about screening is preferable to be conducted by more than one person. So what we did is, if the students already get the final inclusions articles and those exclude, we review the exclude articles, not the include articles. We don't worry about the include articles. We worry about those exclude articles. In case the students are accidentally excluded articles that is relevant to our study. Okay. Right, this is quite small. This is examples of the inclusion and exclusion criteria done in my systematic review study. For example, the study design, I include randomized control trials, quasi-experimentals, before and after study design, prospective retrospective cohort with control groups. So my inclusions in systematic review, it must have control group because I would like to do meta-analysis following systematic review. So if you plan to do meta-analysis, make sure that you can, sometimes meta-analysis, even though you want to do meta-analysis, at the end of systematic review, you only find probably 2 articles. If 2 articles, you can't do meta-analysis. Meta-analysis can only be done at least 3 articles, minimum of 3. Okay? So sometimes control groups, sometimes in certain research, you don't need to put control group. You just want to do a narrative review. Means that you want to tell what is happening, what is lack, what's the gap. So you don't need a control group. But to do meta-analysis, you are required to have control group. Okay, and then you see the population like adults. What is the interventions? Okay, what are the the service? This is because I've done the systematic review on pharmacy services, so I explain what's the definition of the services, something like that. Okay, and then you have to outline the outcomes. So the outcomes, the quantitative, I would like it to be reported as mortality, hospitalization, clinical biomarkers or marker of disease progress. What's your secondary outcome? Secondary outcome is you would like to look at a soft outcome, which is medication adherence, economy, quality of life, for example. Okay, so the study design, you may exclude review articles because review articles does not report detailed research findings. You can use it to get the reference, but you can't include it in your systematic review as one paper. Okay, commentaries, editorial letter. So this is quite standard. If you don't know what to include or exclude in your research problem, in your research, what you can do is find similar systematic review, but probably the systematic review was done in different compound, for example. So use that paper to guide you on developing your inclusion and exclusion criteria. So what you need to do sometimes, you will just change the compound. For example, that systematic review was done in compound A, so your systematic review was done in compound B. This is how I did mine. So I look at the previous systematic review done similarly to my topics, then I develop myself on what my research topics. Okay, so at the end of the day, you need to put in systematic review. You have to come up with this flow chart of stating how many papers are located and how many people are finally included in your analysis. So why I told you just now, you need to keep track on why the exclusion criteria, because you need to report it here. Like how many papers are excluded based on title and abstracts, and then you have to categorize it. So you remove the non-English articles. 7 articles were removed because they are not English. 307 articles were removed because it was not a setting of interest, for example. So this is why you need to keep track on the excluded articles. So basically, my finding, I found 3,245 articles, and then remove, to the end I'll get 36, which I divided into 2 because I have 2 outcomes. One is the primary outcome and second is secondary outcome. So the primary outcome, which I proceed to meta-analysis, have 21 included articles, while others was reporting secondary outcome have 32 articles. Okay. So from 3,000 reduced to 21, it take me quite some time. Yeah, but you can, the title screening is quite quick. You can do search. From the list, you can search animals. So it come out in EndNotes, you can search paper that with titles animals. So it come out all the research that use animals in the topics. And then you quickly can exclude that keyword. Okay? That's why you need a reference manager.
What is the difference between the two exclusion? First phase, the second phase?
Okay. The difference between these two is the first one was done based on title and abstract. And then the second part, if the exclusion due to when you read the full articles. So basically, I need to read 135 full articles to exclude and include the articles. And then after have include and exclude, what we did is we sit down and then we discuss whether you agree that these people will be excluded based on 135 articles. Okay. So then after you have come down to this, to the number that final number, which is you want to include in your systematic review, you have to do study quality assessment. Why we do quality assessment? Because we want to capture and analyze potential bias or the credibility of studies. Okay, some studies they reported significance, but probably because the sample size was small, because they done in a population with no diseases, no comorbidities, young population, for example. They don't do random sampling, for example, they do convenience sampling. So this is the thing that you need to assess to compare between the studies. So there are many approaches to evaluate quality of the study. You can do design hierarchy. Okay, you can compare if there are tools that can help you to sort of like evaluate or assess the study qualities. You can use the famous one is the Cochrane Collaboration Guidelines, Down and Black. This is an example. There's a lot of other tools that can be used to assess the quality of the study. Some of the tools use design hierarchy. So if the study was done as RCT, they got 1 mark. If it's other study design, it got 0 mark, for example. And then some of the tools they use scales to rate overall quality. They have marks. Some of the tools they don't use marks. They use you just compare is this available, it's not available. So you just say that they don't the method was not thorough because they don't do intention to treat analysis ITP, for example. Okay. And then you have to look at the potential source of bias reported in the study, the selection bias, the performance bias, the attrition bias, detection bias. Okay, for example, the attrition bias, the dropout or withdrawal, the author initial group composition. For example, when the study was done, they reported a significant results on the intervention group, for example. But when you look at it, you look at a lot of patients drop out in the middle of treatment. That 50% drop out, and then they just conclude the 50% of who retained in the treatment. Maybe 50% yang drop out is already died. So the treatment doesn't effective. Actually, the treatment killed your patient. So this is important to be, when reading the articles, you need to be, important to put special intention to read about this, bias in the research. Okay, once bias has been reported, you need to sort of like report in the tables, usually in publication, they don't need you to include in the bias reports. But in thesis, definitely you have to put it. But the certain journal, they ask it for supplementary. So you have to, prepare. You want to look at does the bias assessment has been done or not. Okay. Because bias assessment will also help you to do, when you do meta-analysis later on, when you do data analysis or during systematic review, so bias will be will play an important role in your analysis. For example, if you say that this study has significant results, but because the bias are too many bias reported in the study, you might want to include that. So you may say that those people who reported bias who reported bias of more than 5 score, for example, so you want to exclude the articles. You don't want to include in your systematic review. So that's even though it seems just bias assessment, but it's actually play an important role in your systematic review and meta-analysis. And during meta-analysis, sometimes you want to do sub-analysis. You don't want to include every study designs as the same meta-analysis. So you say that for hospitalization, you want to do meta-analysis on RCT only. Those who are on RCT, you group it to do a second meta-analysis. And you see the difference in results. Those who reported RCT was not significant, but those who don't do as RCT, they reported a significant results. You can see from that. So that's why bias assessment is very important. It's tedious because you need to read through the methodology, read through the people, and then question yourself whether they are biased, potential or biased. If there, then sometimes you have to contact the author to confirm whether this hasn't been done, for example. Okay. And then data extraction. So you have to extract the data from the study. More than one person involved in the data, the better, because we have researcher bias as well. Sometimes we just only took outcome that we are interested, or we wrongly understand the results. So 2 persons involved in the data extraction are better. Content of data extraction, usually you have to report the authors, the year of the study design, the research method, detailed information about assessment, allocation of patient into intervention and control arm, for example. And then you have to include the intervention, for example, the treatment modalities, the information that given to the patient, which may affect the study outcomes. The frequency of meeting with the providers, okay, the service providers' background, everything that may affect the study quality, the study outcomes. Okay, and then the participant characteristic, you want to know what the age of the population, because sometimes studies show significant result, but it's already is done on younger populations. The study who shows unsignificant result was done on the elderly population, for example, and if you conclude everything in without notice that they are different in age in the populations, so you have concluded wrong things. So outcome measure, and then also statistical information. So we want to calculate the effect size. So systematic review can do up to effect size, but you also can opt out to do this effect size. Okay. I will explain what is effect size later on in my meta-analysis. So this is the examples of data extraction. You have the authors over here and year of the studies, and then you have the country of origin. So this template of data extraction is depend on your research. So my research, because I'm looking at the service and then its outcome, service provided by pharmacy. So I need to explain, the setting of the services, whether the pharmacists have access to clinical notes, what type of the services. So I need to collect this data to compare. So in your study, you probably don't need to get this data. It depends on you. What are the things that may influence the outcomes? So you want to include in this data extraction. Okay. And then the compulsory things is the author or the year. For country, I'm not sure, but for practice and clinical, usually we put the country of origin. Study designs, and study designs is compulsory. And then perhaps your other things lah. If you do clinicals, you may need to mention the patient's comorbidities. The study was done on hypertension only or asthma only, everything in chronic diseases. So this is the things that you put in the tables. And then this is to simplify the reader. What I did is I put the outcomes at the end of the table, which is to explain that in this study, the intervention has significant result more than control. So I don't want to put a detailed tables saying that how many percentage increase. It will be troublesome for the reader to digest things up. If they want to know in detail what they study, they can go and find these papers. Okay. And then data analysis. So systematic review, you can do a simple tabulation of study characteristic, which I show you in like the tables. Okay, you put your year, starting, study design, the quality. Maybe you want to put the quality, maybe you don't. It depends on you. So if you want to show that there are quality problems in all the research that has been done prior, so you can put the quality to prove that. Okay. The result might include reporting the effect size of individual study, which is the outcomes. You report it as effect size. The odd ratios, the risk odd ratio or risk ratio. Okay. And then the effect size measure the strength and direction of the outcome. Effect size I will explain later in my meta-analysis. Okay. And then you can put graphical display, forest plot. You can put forest plot even in systematic review. You don't not necessarily the difference between forest plot systematic review and forest plot meta-analysis is in systematic review it doesn't have the pool effect size. It doesn't calculate the pool effect size. Okay. And then you can report your systematic review to narrative review. Narrative review means that you summarize things up and tell it what is happening, what has been done, what need to be done, what is lacking, okay, what's the limitation, something like that, okay. And then usually your systematic review will identify data or knowledge gap which need to be done in future study. So basically, if you do a PhD or master by research, you are doing a review because you need to find a gap in your study, right? So you're doing a review. But whether you need to do in systematic review, the systematic review can be considered as a research method. Okay, so these papers, you can get these papers, very detailed papers published on how to, the roadmap for systematic review and meta-analysis. Okay. Interesting part of this diagram, you can look at these dotted boxes, this one. Because this one very good to guide you on which software to use, what you need to do. For example, like after you exclude the articles, it tells you keep a lot of excluded studies with reason for exclusion. Okay, so this one is very good things for you to use as a guide. Okay, so that's the end for systematic review. Any questions before we move to the second part?
Very enlightening. Merasa macam systemic review macam mudahnya. Now you know. You know? Like dengan light-headiness. No, I think satu perkara yang kalau orang you never do systematic review, you see the when Dr. Indra presenting, it's more of human study. But in actual fact, you can look for animal study also. Sometimes like what we did usually is the animals, like in our case, our subject will be patient, let's say diabetic patients. But you can look at animals, meaning that you are using rats, whatever species it is. You know, that is your subject. But in terms of intervention, can be various type of chemicals or whatever compound being used for that particular purpose. You know, so that is in our case, the intervention will be, let's say, patient receiving counseling, patient not receiving counseling, you know, counseling with nurse counseling. So it's different intervention. So in chemistry, you can use different chemicals, different compound for the same purpose. For, let's say, for diabetic rat, let's say. So the outcome will be like ours is looking at HbA1c of the patients. Then for animal study, you can see the sugar levels of the rats as your outcome. So it can apply in animal study, but you need to think how you need to, the terms being used will be changed. You have to apply for animals. So it will be wider. Mas Dela, kenapa memandang air yang dicelah cuma mata? Example. Example.
Tapi kalau let's say chemistry, let's say focus on one plant, misalnya different plants, tapi different macam concentration or different solvents or different extraction method, does it count as the I part
Intervention type. Can? The issues is, can you look for papers that have that variation on the intervention part?
But different plants for the same purpose banyak, terlalu banyak.
Boleh juga. If for me, it's quite weird kalau if you do a science-based research, too many people doing rats, diabetes, and the same plant. Where is the novelty? Meaning everybody is repeat the same work. Kan?
Different fractions or different.
Kalau by animals, they will use extract tau, not pure compound. Very rare lah.
Yelah. Tak kisahlah. Tapi you kena, the intervention tu have to be clearly defined. They have to be clearly defined. That is the main purpose. Like ours pun, kalau you tengok in clinical setting atau practice, the intervention tu dengan setting patient tu sama je. Di Malaysia buat, China buat, we can repeat. In clinical boleh repeat. Sebab health system tak sama, literature level tak sama, the behaviour, genetics of the patient tak sama. Jadi we never know what's the effects. So bila compare, so you boleh dapat repeated study yang lebih kurang sama. The design of the study will be similar, the subject and characteristics look like the same, the population is different.
Kalau macam same plant, same disease, can we apply this different regions sebab plant we know chemometricnya apa guna lalu different region.
Yeah, but if you talk about the pure compound,
Pure compound tak adalah.
it's not going to be
Extract
either
lah.
in China or in Malaysia.
People extract like grown here different.
Yeah, yes, you can do. Meaning you can play with meaning that your variables will be origins lah, country of origins of the plant or geographical location of the plant.
Macam parts tu jadi variables. Sling jadi
Tapi itulah, boleh tapi dia nak buat study lah. Orang ni buat root, orang ni buat stem, habis dah. Sebab yang kita satu pokok yang sama kan. Jadi itulah nak to get numbers mungkin payah sikit. Jadi small lah kalau same condition, different plant dan banyak pula.
Sebab macam tadi yang Andrew cakap, why in clinical practice or pharmacy practice we do these kind of things is because to run a big research to make a very high impact results, the cost is very high. So most of the people get small grants, so we can run like 50 patient here, 50 patient there. So everybody lack of power. So because the objective, the final outcome is similar, so we can combine. So the meta-analysis or systematic review is more of to get the power.
So if we have
Tadi
like
ceramah.
if we have how do we make conclusion from the systematic review? Is there a guideline to conclude from all the studies done?
I don't think there has a guidelines on how you do a narrative review lah, but basically the narrative review includes what's our like what I said, what have been done, what need to be done, what is lacking, what is future. So that's the things that you can start. How do you do the narrative review? You just mentioned, okay, from the review found that the 21 study done, but the research was done only to this population. This was happened, and the findings was seeing this, this direction.
Maybe this one a bit technical, but how like to exclude the duplication in the like macam population.
Duplication can be removed if you use reference manager. Okay, reference manager, if you read that the reference manager store your reference, is according, you can put it as alphabetical. Like a reader. So you can see that 5 people in a reader, so you can see that location. But sometimes that's a clear, the first part of duplication is a very clear part, which is you think that there are, PubMed also keeps Arida's papers, the Orbit also keeps the Arida's papers. You can, if it's really similar, 100% similar, it's easy for you to exclude. Some researchers, they publish their research in 2 journals. The titles are different. So that things are made tricky. When you read, you only can know that that's a duplicate articles when you read through the full article. When you read through, okay, this is similar, and then he referred to the first report.
Just a normal review. But you use this kind of method, you get
Meaning there's no shortcut.
very systematic, very nice.
Remove duplicate if it's reference manager, the 100% similar, that one is easier. You just list out and then look at duplicate. Some, I think Medley or EndNote, I think they can run the duplicate buttons, find duplicates. So So it will record the division.
After breastfeeding, I fall position. But I look at this one I stopped very quickly. I only do one.
Okay, sekejap tuan dan puan. Hello ladies and gentlemen. I think kita teruskan dulu dengan Dr. Rinda punya next part of the talk. Lepas tu baru kita continue dengan Q&A ya. Sebab nampak dah huru hara ni.
Meta-analysis. Kita sambung kalau ada masa untuk search lah. Okay.